different technique that I utilize in able to listen to a new album come out when I fall in love.
Mentor My Mix with Greg Gordon. Mentor My Mix.
Right. All right. So hello and welcome back to the Mentor My Mix podcast. Yeah, today I have as my guest Mal Harper.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, Mal. So good to have you here. It's been so long. I haven't seen you in a minute, huh?
I know. It has been a hot minute for sure.
Yes, it has. And we're going to get to talk about a few of those hot minutes coming into this. Hey, we're listening to Evil Aria right now, huh? Off the brand new release on Mal label called Space Opera.
Yes, we have started doing fully compilation only based releases to basically showcase a variety of up-and-coming artists and established artists that all sit under one theme. So the theme of this album was space opera, and we got a lot of really spacey, atmospheric, kind of travel-y, futuristic vibes on the whole album. But this one is a particular favorite.
Yeah, this is a cool track. So this is by an artist named Illexxandra. Did I produce?
Illexxandra.
Illexxandra.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk about Illexxandra for a moment here.
Yeah, so we really have been trying to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the artists that we are promoting. And essentially what that means is just having in the back of our mind really trying to showcase people from different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, and also women. I'm a woman myself.
Clearly.
And when we started the label, 13 years ago, I was one of the only females out there, especially as a label owner.
Yeah.
I wasn't seeing a lot of other faces like mine, and of course in the 13 years since then, a lot of that has changed, but I do definitely think there's still a minority of women participating in the music industry, and we're really trying to like push those faces out there more.
Yeah.
And Illexxandra, she's a great up and comer, and actually reached out to us and sent us this track, and we just fell in love with it. So we're like, it's perfect fit for space opera.
So great. It's so great. It's so great for us to circle back now and get to see each other and work together again, because it's been, like you said, a hot minute. I think we were just talking earlier about, I guess when we first met was in 2012. Is that
I
right?
think so, yeah, during Fractalized Festival.
Right, so you were
E40.
producing a festival on, what river was that on?
The Feather River.
Yes, the Feather. Oh, it's so beautiful up there, too.
I know,
It's
and you know
gorgeous.
what's really sad is the fires have taken that venue out. Belden is no longer with us, and it was a favorite venue of a lot of people in the underground and in the bass community, because it's a really tiny spot, about 1,000 people right
That's
on
right.
the river.
Yeah.
And it had all these great amenities like showers, a restaurant, so it was like really easy camping and glamping, if you will.
Yeah.
But
And so awesome to be able to chill in the river there.
Yes.
When you're not at the main stage.
and have a little day party down at the river.
Mm-hmm,
and it was just, there was a bridge crossing over, people would jump off the bridge into the water. It was just a really lovely, beautiful place, and there's been a lot of really great music events there over the years. But when we did Fractalize, we had E40 as our headliner.
Yes, you did. I remember that.
They had definitely not had a person of his status, I think, and of his rap background there. And I remember the town being a little bit scared about what kind of people were going to show up.
Oh, yeah.
And we pushed back on it. It ended up being a really great event. I think E40 actually really enjoyed it too, because it was probably a different atmosphere than he was used to.
I remember that. Yeah. And I really want to talk about the integration of rap music and bass music, because I think you've done a really good job of kind of curating that. And I know we're going to listen to another track coming up here called The Dragon by El Diablo and someone I've known for many years, Nim 1, right?
Yes.
And it's so cool to see that integration happening, because it really, talk about inclusion, right? You're really mixing cultures here, and I know it's a really cool way to do that in this kind of musical genre and style. So talk a little bit more about this release, especially as it relates to the other releases you're doing. I know you've reached out to us recently at Pyramind and to include some of our artists and grads who are putting out music of this style. And so we were super psyched for you to reach out to us and ask for that and to be able to collaborate on that level. And I know also later today we're going to do a live stream with a couple of your artists, right?
Yes.
And that's exciting. We're going to get to do a live stream in our DJ performance
I know.
lab
I can't
here.
wait to see the studio.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, we are super psyched about it. It's, we're just, like I keep saying, we're just getting going. We're just getting started with this. But, we started booking these streams out about a month and a half ago now. And now, we were just started doing outreach. We're trying to see if people would be, into doing this with us. And now we've got we're booked out 2 months in advance.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So all of a sudden
And you're getting great traction. I subscribed. I hit that smash that subscribe button.
Yes.
And I've been seeing you've been putting out a lot of great content too.
Yeah.
And I think it's really valuable for a lot of up and coming artists and established artists to have that continued education. And
Yes.
I think that's, there's really a lack of content around, music production, music education, music marketing right now. And so I do think that what you're pushing is something that a lot of people are looking for right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because, sometimes it's hard to know when you're starting things up. It's easy to get discouraged quickly. And we talk a lot about that with our students here. It's like, remember, hold true to your vision. Don't get discouraged. This is not easy,
It takes a while.
Takes a while. And, look how long you've been doing this, right?
Yes.
When did you start Mal Label?
I started Mal Label in 2008 as an event. I wanted to be a music promoter at first, and I had met Gus, who you're going to see play El Diablo. You're going to see him play later.
Yep.
We had a mutual friend, the Genie, and the three of us teamed up, and we put on our first show at this tiny little bar in the Mission. I can't even remember.
Wait, is this the guitar player, the Genie?
Yes,
he's phenomenal.
Yes.
I love him.
And he has been a street musician for decades in San Francisco, so he already had a pretty wide following. And then I think with Gus's background in the music scene, he was with a drum and bass crew, and then I came from Santa Clara University, where I was throwing parties there, and that's kind of how I got my start. We basically had keggers and live music playing, and I was in a band way back
what?
then.
You were in a band?
Yeah.
What did you play?
I was a singer-songwriter.
Oh,
and we did I was super into Sound Tribe Sector 9. So we
Yeah.
did a lot of that jam band, with a little electronic influence that was dancey, but still psychedelic and more impromptu. We had our core songs, but we would also jam and just kind of flow a lot together in college.
Yeah, cool.
And I was really into it. And that's kind of how I got my first taste of electronic music. But once I started going to Bass Nectar shows, Anasia, Glitch Mob, they were really big at the time. I realized I just was super into that kind of vibe more, where it was just full on about the dance floor and dancing. And Burning Man is a big part of that vibe as well, where you're thinking about layering on artists, live art there, visuals, lighting. Especially in the underground scene in 2008, those elements weren't there, and the underground scene was usually local artists playing. And so what we really tried to do at the time, when I was growing Mal Label, is targeting warehouse spaces, bringing in headliners, and then having a whole space curated around it that now is totally ubiquitous. Everybody does visuals, live art, and creates that space. But about 14 years ago, it just wasn't a thing in the bass community. And so Burning Man, I really think, was a big inspiration as well. Once you see what they were doing out there, you really could come back and take a lot away about how to improve your events and push things forward. We did a lot of interactive performances, which I thought was cool. We did a lot of themes. We had special curation of visuals with artist performances that I think really grew the name Mal Label very quickly. And we were also working at this underground venue called the Bordello over in Oakland, which is pretty notorious.
Right, yeah.
It was this flop house in the 50s. I think it was a flop house, and it actually became a call it like briefly a whorehouse.
Well, it had the right name for it, didn't it? Yeah.
And then, it became an underground scene. And I think kink.com actually was filming some like pornos there as well. And then, of course, somehow the underground community hears about it and it becomes a rave space.
Of course,
and
yeah.
we threw a lot of parties there, and then whatever spots popped up around the city. But that's how I grew my name originally as a promoter. And then about 2 years of doing that, I was meeting all of these phenomenal artists that just didn't know how to get their music out there. MySpace was the main social network at the time, and it was really hard to self-release digitally. For me, with no background in it, it was a good just entry level about the business of putting out music.
Sure. Yeah, that's great.
And then I actually, Mal Label actually then became a label, which I think was the plan all along with the name, but it just took me a while to feel comfortable and to build up the network of artists that I had in order to push out music. And Gus was one of the first, El Diablo, he was one of the first releases we put out. We did this track together where I rapped on it. I have a rapper persona called Mal Irie.
Wait, Mal Irie?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So you got a Rasta rap going there a little bit?
It
or
was
what?
more just a fun party anthem. It was called Rolling with My Crew. I'll send you, I'll send you a copy of the video so
Okay.
your viewers can see a little
Okay.
snippet. But
yeah, we can put that up there. Yeah.
Gus did the production and I'd rap, and it ended up becoming kind of a party anthem song of the summer. A lot of people in the music scene or in our bass music community started playing it out. I remember hearing it when I went to Shambhala, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe I'm hearing myself like if I played somebody else. That was kind of one of my first like rock star in the scene moments. I really felt like, wow, I'm, this is actually starting to get an audience if I'm hearing it all the way up in Canada.
Oh, you mentioned something I think that's important to talk about for a second. Safe dance space. What is that? What is the safe dance? What does that mean to support safe dance space? Right?
Yeah, I think, there's a couple things just, when people being able to have drug testing kits available and bringing in, those weren't readily available now. And especially with like fentanyl being such a big problem,
Ooh, yeah.
right? And it being able to have the safe testing zone where people, because people are going to do it, right?
Yeah.
They're going to do whatever they want. You can't stop that from happening, but you can at least make the space safer by providing that kind of, testing environment. So they're making sure if what they are taking is safe to take. And another big thing that I've always been a huge pusher of is you got to have good security that's trained in de-escalating either violence or de-escalating a sexual assault situation. And really being trained to look for it and pulling those people out, separating them, getting the people the help that they need if it is a dangerous situation. And being able to tell your audience that this is available, please go seek help. If somebody hurts you or something's happening, this security is available there for you to reach out to. And and especially Bass Coast even has like a safe dance areas where if like you're having a bad trip or if somebody's going through a hard time, there's all of these like zones kind of away from the party where you can calm down and get there's somebody there to help you, kind of guide you out of whatever you're going through. And I think again, like 15 years ago, those just weren't things
that didn't exist
that happened, and it's really been an evolution to where we are now. I do think spaces are much safer than they used to be.
Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, we forget, you go into these environments where there's a lot of people, and the music has an energy in and of itself, and people get taken away by that. And I think that's why people go to these festivals and why they go to hear this kind of music, because they want that, that the energy that comes from being fully immersed in that heavy sound, the bass music that's just rocking your whole body, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I love it. I know.
Me too.
Just personally, I love that experience.
Bass heads.
Yeah. And so I think we tend to forget that people can get carried away with that. And they don't often know why or how they're getting carried away, and then you mix substances with that, and that can become a very it can really emotions can get the better of people in those circumstances. So having safe spaces and people that are aware of how to manage that is so important.
100%.
So that's a big component now of running a label, is being able to produce live events, isn't it?
I would say so. Yeah, you really need to have to have that marketing behind it and continuation of like that constant. You're seeing your music come out. I can listen to your music, but where can I actually go see it live? And people have always wanted that. I've been doing this for 15 years, and it was kind of we had actually planned a comeback show at the Midway with Qbert right as COVID hit in March, like 2020. And so it's been a little bit of a.
I remember seeing that. Yeah,
I
was like,
really
wow,
excited.
that's exciting. Yeah,
we took a little bit of a hiatus. I had to kind of step away from the label to focus on my health for a little bit.
Yeah.
For about 2 years, and then we wanted to come back strong in 2020, and then of course the pandemic hit. So we've moved, as most people have moved, into virtual spaces. And at first we tried to do the live streams, which are great, and I think you need to have those consistently. But we also tried something new, which was a digital music conference, and we called it MalCon. And we
I
put
was
that
gonna,
up.
I was going to bring that up. I thought that was really cool. I know you did that in coordination with Stefan and
Yes.
IDC, right?
IDC like basically led it, and Lamb Productions did all the editing. It turned out very polished and really far exceeded my expectations. So I think we'll definitely do it again. But
yeah, there were some really good education components to that.
Yes.
I tuned into it for a little bit to check it out. It was cool.
I enjoyed like all of the aspects of just various expertise of all of the artists and managers and just people that we've worked with. I had Carrie on, Stefan also led one. I mean, they had so much to offer with all, with their full careers, that I thought they were great. And then we also brought in some malleable artists as well, and a marketing expert, Hitcham Daoud. But I felt like, again, similar to what I was talking about with you earlier, with what Pyramine's doing, there is a real lack of like, how do I market my music and how do I get my start? Like, I can make music, I can kind of figure it out, but there's like even less tutorials and less knowledge easily gainable. To market and really start to kind of pull your brand together and push yourself forward. So I'm hoping that we can continue doing more education stuff like
That's
that.
great.
Because we had a lot of really positive feedback on
sure.
of people that got a lot of benefit out of that. So I thought that was a good way to continue getting our name out there. But I definitely want to get back into doing the live event space. I've just been a little hesitant with doing live events just purely because of COVID, and I have some health issues surrounding that. Yeah.
Right, I understand. And so you mentioned Couch Fam. What's Couch Fam?
They basically go into they work with like the UNS Festival, for example, or like local festivals, local groups, local any kind of performance that's going on that's bass music related. They go in and they actually record live, and then they post it on their page.
That's super cool. Yeah.
They basically, for people that can't go to events, people like me that aren't still, crowds are a little scary right now. They can go in, and it's just more exposure for the artist and for the event playing. They have everything recorded. We actually, like way back in the day, we would record all of our parties that we threw, all of the different Mal-label events, and some of those still are in our archives, and people still listen to them, because when you're in the live music mode, I think sometimes you can get just a little extra special something that maybe you wouldn't get in a studio recording set. Some of the live music elements really just bring you that extra energy that I think and then you don't get a copy of it, right? Because usually they're not recorded, so they do that extra legwork for you.
So you've been doing this for quite a few years now, and I was looking at your site, and I'm just like stunned at the amount of releases you have out. I was just like, holy cow. How did you do this? How do you manage to put out that much music? I mean, how many releases do you have now in your catalog?
I think we have 253 releases.
Holy cow, that's impressive.
I was on kind of a terror for a minute there where we were putting out, like, I mean, it got crazy. I'd say from 2016 to 2018, I was putting out a release like every 2 weeks, and I had a whole like way of doing it where we I would just queue up artists, and we would get the artwork going, the mastering going, get all the deliverables into distro as early as possible, and then just had a flat way of doing campaigning. I had a marketing person doing all the marketing stuff. We would make videos, but I would say the real negative of that, which is what we've kind of moved away from, is you just not giving the release enough time to really lay and sit with people. So some would just pop off and do really well. And this is when to streaming and like we kind of moved, we're still on SoundCloud, and I think SoundCloud's really valuable, especially for up and coming, but we moved over to primarily pointing to Spotify because it actually generates a little bit more royalties for us.
You can generate royalties on SoundCloud,
yes,
though. With
you
SoundCloud.
can. We just have more focused on Spotify just because it's just a bigger audience base worldwide. But
does it somehow it has some cachet in that regard, right? It just feels more legit, and it's definitely where all the big artists are. So,
yes, exactly. And then you can try to push to get featured on like a bigger mixtape or something like that, which as soon as you get like a one hit on that, I mean, the streaming royalties can be really huge. And my whole thing at the time was I want to really support up and coming artists as much as possible. And so I was getting a ton of demos sent to me because artists knew, and I was paying for the cost of the whole release. So I was paying for the artwork, I was paying for the mastering, I was paying for promos. So a lot of artists were hitting me up because they were like, hey, you know, most labels don't offer this, especially with the underground kind of more up and coming labels. They just don't have the budget in order to kind of pay for all these things. They a lot of times would ask the artist to cover these expenses, and then they would split release costs down the middle or something like that. So it was a little bit of a benefit that I had, that I could put more budget behind our release. And so then that way we got a ton of submissions, a ton of really great artists that were up and coming at that time are now established. It's cool to see us established years later. And so but I wanted to move away from that strategy because it just was honestly, I felt like we were missing the mark on fully giving that release time to sit and find its audience. Some did, and some did really well, but others just didn't because we couldn't give it a 2-3 month campaign. And so we moved now to our release strategy, if you will, is essentially taking a combination of 4 to 6 artists, having them produce music underneath a theme. So our last release was space opera. It had a very like, you know, out of this world, kind of futuristic, dark, maybe atmospheric vibe to it. And so we were looking for music that would fit under that term. And then we basically put together with the focus of, you know, trying to have a diverse lineup, also trying to have more of a headliner name, and then also up and comer names. And then we put together space opera, which I think is a good like feature of that. We have somebody like Buka on there, who's a well-known dubstep artist. He's really big in Europe. He's the headliner of the release, if you will.
But that's the last track on there. It's called Space Coast Boogie.
Yes. It's a good closer.
Yeah.
It's a very cool dubstep track. And I've known Buka for years. I also watched him up and come. He's a really cool, nice guy. But he's huge now in Europe, and he plays like big shows there. And so we try to use those connections of people we've worked with in the past and really have a magic formula of up and comers, established people with this theme to make it more of a release experience. And then our strategy has been to release each track as a single, give the single time to sit for maybe 3-4 weeks, and then put the whole thing together as a compilation on Spotify. And in our last 2, we did Neo Noir. The Whittler was the headliner on that one, and then we did Buka. They've actually gotten really good traction because we give them like 4 or 5 months of promo time, and it's just sitting and hitting with our audience much better.
Oh wow, that's a really important point. So how do you go about releasing the singles? What's the strategy for the singles before you put out the full compilation?
We do the same strategy as we would with the full compilation. It hits all of our distro sites. I use IDC, you know, does all of the legwork around that, independent distribution.
So they all go right up to Spotify as singles. They go Spotify, Apple Music, all the major platforms.
Yep. And then at the end, we'll put it together as a compilation, and then we'll also put it on Bandcamp. So if the people that in Bandcamp, we price with a little bit of a discount. So if you couldn't get it anywhere else, you can get it at Bandcamp.
Right. Well, the cool thing with Bandcamp is you can download the track and you get the actual file. And that way, if you want to play any of these tracks in your sets, hint, hint, you could go up there and buy them, you know, and it's legit, right?
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
Of course, you can go to Beatport. I'm assuming they're up there too, right? Yeah.
They're everywhere, but, you know, in our bass music community, I would say it's still a very, you have your headliner, you have people playing major shows, but at my root, I am still an underground label, and I really like supporting more direct to the consumer. And so and Bandcamp has just always been good to us. They featured us several times, which has allowed good traction. But a lot of people in our community, DJs, artists, go there to look for tracks and go to SoundCloud before anywhere else. So we just want to make sure we cover all of our bases, where it's worldwide distributed through IDC. But then if you are more on that underground hook, you can still get it from Bandcamp and more localized through us.
And do you promote mixes of any of these artists, like DJ mixes up on like SoundCloud?
Yeah, we do. Actually, Gus is the director of operations of Mal Label, so he's been really helpful of kind of curating these. We have a thing called Mal Mixes, and he'll ask artists that we're either putting out records with, or maybe it's somebody we've worked with in the past. Like LB just did a great mix, a Mal mix. I think we're just numbering them, but I forget what number hers is. But essentially using them to promote like things that we have coming out. So we used her Mal mix to promote MalCon, if you will. I'm like, God, all this Mal stuff.
You got a lot of Mal going on. So if somebody wants to go find a Mal mix, where are they going to go look for it?
To our SoundCloud. Yeah.
And are you putting this up? Yeah, I imagine you guys have a YouTube channel too. There's Mal Label up on YouTube.
Yes.
So that's where you're putting these videos.
And Twitch. We're trying to slowly grow our Twitch.
Great. Yeah. We're just getting up there on Twitch too now that we're doing our live streams. And one of the things I noticed right away is just the quality of the stream on Twitch is so much better.
And I think Twitch has its own unique audience of people.
It does.
Yeah. That really want to interact too. So we were running them both kind of simultaneously and trying to like interact as much as possible. But that's something
on the chat, with the icons and all that.
Exactly. It was like, I was like, oh God, I think we almost need 2 people to do this next time, because I was like on both computers.
Well, if you use Restream, they consolidate down and you can do them all on one stream.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes. Okay. So what do you have planned next? What's your next big thing? What are you pushing for right now?
So we are starting to think about our next compilation, which we're putting together now, which we like 2 of Peer Mine artists.
Oh, great. Yeah. Which ones? Do you remember which ones they are?
Let me pull it up. I can't think of the name.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I remember some of the emails going back and forth on that. While you're looking that up, if people did want to submit tracks to Mal Label, how do you take your submission? How do you manage submissions?
So I like them going just directly to me, and then basically we have a demos at mallabelmusic.com email. Those go straight to my email and Gus's email, and then the 2 of us just listen to what we get.
You listen to everything that comes in?
I would say I try to, I mean, honestly, like you might never heard of an artist, but they have something phenomenal to deliver to you. And it's how I've actually found a lot of really great stuff. So I do try to. I will say that if I don't like the first, I'll give it like 45 to 60 seconds.
Ooh, that's generous. Okay, I thought you were going to say 5 to 10 seconds.
No, I'll be generous, because sometimes these intros can go on for a little bit. You want to like let the groove go on. I will, if it's not feeling me by 45, 60, it'll be a pass for me usually. And we get probably, I'd say anywhere from 30 to 100 tracks monthly. So I try to listen to them as soon as they come in to make sure they don't stack. And then Gus and I take turns of, do you like this? Do you think it'll fit with what we're going for? And then we'll also reach out to like people and say, hey, we're putting this compilation together. We did that with Buka with our space opera one, and the Whittler before that on Neo Noir. So if there's somebody we really want to work with, we'll also directly reach out.
Yeah. Well, we appreciated you reaching out to us. Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to work with you guys again. I was thinking maybe we could, partner and do. We would love to feature artists of Peer Mine if they fit under the vibe, and we could have a little partnership going on.
I mean, that's a big part of why we started doing these live streams, and why we want to give our students as many opportunities as possible to get out of the classroom environment, and really be a part of the community, and get yourself out there, be heard, be seen, because without that, without those kind of opportunities, it's really hard to leverage up,
100%.
And you can't just play.
Networking is huge.
Yeah, you can't. I've learned so much over the years that you can't play the ivory tower game. It's part of. It's really a part of connecting with community, and we do that on all kinds of levels. On the video game side of things, helping the composers that work with us to get noticed, and that's why we put out a compilation of all video game related music. On our last release, we called it Game Sound On.
Cool.
Volume 1, and we put out, I think it was 14 tracks. Of all really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, game music compositions, and part of that is giving that the opportunity to get out there and get noticed. Because there's so much music out there.
It's
now.
a great royalty generator too. I was just gonna say some of the most successful artists that I know that really make money doing music aren't the ones that tour. They're the ones that know the music supervisors, are getting their music in movies, television, and video games. Like I work with this producer. His name's DJ Puzzle. He's on the label. He just makes so much freaking music for all sorts of moods and set and setting, and then he organizes his catalog and he just sends it out to different music supervisors, and he rakes in the royalties, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah. If you have, for us, we have a massive catalog. Like we have over 2,000 songs, and Gus actually got us hooked up with this group called Sync Floor, and they do all of these micro licensing opportunities. So they're getting us on like just short little internet ads, or like right now, like exercise at home exercise. Like that has been a huge cash cow for us, which I never would have thought, because it's the music that we have is like perfect, energetic for like for workout sessions.
Yeah.
And then they pay us out in these, they call them micro licensing deals every month, and that's actually been a really good earner for us.
That's great. That's huge, because does that work with an app? Is that an app-based workout thing that they sync the content with? Or?
So Gus actually, when he started working for the label, he made it his mission to like really work on licensing opportunities for us, because when we get one place, like we've gotten some really good deals, where we're, it could be, a 5-figure paycheck where, where something goes out in a movie or something goes out in a video game, and so Gus really wanted to focus on that and just really try to look for other opportunities of licensing, like basically libraries where like ad people will go to this library and then be like, hey, I want something that's chaotic feeling and dark, and then they'll come to this library, and the library will have everything tagged appropriately, so it makes finding what you're looking for a lot easier. So we as the label will go and tag everything to what we think it sounds like, and then send it off to these guys who then have their client. It's basically like a middleman.
Is that on your website, on the Mal label website? Where do you do that?
We reached out directly to we just kind of cold called various libraries. So we just did like a Google search essentially to find different libraries like this, and Sync Floor was one of them that popped up. And Gus,
I see. So they then ingest that into their library, and
exactly.
you guys do a royalty share on that.
Yes.
So it's just a rev share. When people pick up on it, then you split that with
exactly
the distributor. The sync distributor.
Exactly.
On that. So then that becomes a 3-way split between you, the artist, and them?
Yes. It's been awesome for us, because they have all of the connections, right? They have all of the clients, and so it's been an easy way for us to just get these quick deals going where you can generate we're definitely happy with the numbers that we're seeing monthly.
That's amazing.
So,
and that's with Sync Floor.
Yes. And it's called a micro licensor. It's a new type of licensing kind of agency. I haven't worked with one before the last probably 18 months, but it does make a lot of sense, because you get small businesses that want to run ads and things like that need music, or like, essentially like I use the Mere exercise app, and they don't necessarily want to pay for big name artists on their workout types, but they'll look for stuff that still sounds fun and energetic.
Right.
It's just, and they're the ones that are looking for these opportunities.
So can you give us an example of what some of those numbers look like on a micro sync deal? What is that? Is there a master sync up front payment and then a recurring revenue, or how do they do that?
There's not an upfront payment. It's just recurring revenue based on payments, or based on placements and how often that it runs somewhere.
So they do a continuous count
Yes.
of however many times somebody using that website or app or whatever it is chooses one of your tracks.
Yes.
So there's a lot of accounting in the back end of that. There's some sophisticated systems.
Yeah,
right?
and thankfully I don't have to do that.
I was just going to ask you, how does that work? Does that then automatically get split between you and your artist?
Yes, they just basically send me a payout sheet. It's just, the game of small business. You have to realize what is going to make it worth to invest in. But I would say accounting software and finance software, if you're running a business, is always a necessity, even if you don't think it is.
Yeah, it is. But who's your digital aggregator, right? Because they're going to send you those reports for your Mal label digital aggregator. Right?
IDC works with Empire, and so they aggregate all of the reporting for me. They send all the numbers on a per artist basis, so I get these big.
I see. So that comes from
worksheets.
Empire, right?
Empire sends it to IDC, and then IDC sends it to me.
I see.
And then I kind of run that through my accounting system. And then I have to manually make sure that new products are updated and all the splits and things are in there correctly. And, it's just the back end work of signing a release. Like, do you have the signed contract? And what does that signed contract say? And then getting all of that metadata entered into a database so then you can track everything really easily.
It's called running a business at the end of the day, right? If you're serious about it, you're definitely, and it's something that anybody listening right now should take note, because it's no small feat, right? Between finding your artists and then all of the negotiation involved in actually securing your deal, getting them a contract, getting the artwork, getting the masters, putting it out, digitally aggregating it. And I think that's the one upside, I think, of digital aggregation for all the labels now. It forces you to get your metadata right from the get, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And, just knowing your like ISRCs and then getting everything tagged, like, because when you have stuff on SoundCloud now, that's how you make royalties there, is you have to make sure everything's tagged correctly to the ISRC number that you're getting from your catalog. So then that way you can still, they can still trace the royalty of that play going through. And that's something wasn't available on SoundCloud until just a couple years ago. So we're slowly getting our catalog there, whereas our full catalog is already tagged on like Apple Music and Spotify. And I think that's why it's done better for us there too.
Well, that's actually a really important point, because the aggregators, the digital aggregators, don't go to SoundCloud, do they?
No.
They go to all the major platforms, but somehow SoundCloud is in its own world.
Yes.
Kind of like Bandcamp. Right?
Exactly.
Bandcamp is in its own world. You create a Bandcamp account. You can upload your catalog there. If you have a label account, you can have, I think, at the entry level up to 20 artists.
Yes.
So you must have a pretty big account with Bandcamp, right? How many artists do you have total?
God, I mean, it could be something like 400.
That's huge, right? So that alone is a big subscription fee for you to pay on every month. You got to cover your Bandcamp account, and then you've got SoundCloud, and you got to manage that.
Yes.
Right. So are there others that you manage like that between SoundCloud and Bandcamp, and then your digital aggregation?
Also, you have to register with a PRO, so you have to get all of your NBMI.
Okay. Right. But that's not there. You're not digitally distributing content through the PROs.
No.
For everybody listening, the PRO is
Performance Rights Organization.
That's right. So we're talking BMI, ASCAP, CSAC.
Yes.
Right. And that's where you're registering your writers.
Yes.
And your
all
and
your
the publishing
splits.
and all your splits. Right. I'm assuming you have a publishing company then?
Yes, I
with the
do.
label?
I do.
What's the name of your publishing company?
It's Mal Label Publishing.
I thought there was something that said you could not name your label the same, or your publishing company the same thing as your label.
They haven't flagged it.
They haven't flagged it? Okay.
Let me tell you, like, I come from a family of lawyers, so I've had some at least free legal advice, but they're not entertainment lawyers.
Okay.
And so when I've set up these businesses, when I've like filed to get a bank account, it's all been just of advice from them, and then stuff that I've been able to find online, and just how to do things correctly. But I will say there's not really like, when I was like, oh, how do I get a bank account? Like, how do I get my like LLC like going? Because I, as an event promoter, I didn't want to be a sole proprietor in case there was an accident and then somebody would personally sue me. Like, just stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
that you have to think about to protect
do.
yourself, and then
Sure.
have to jump through all of these hoops to make sure you get your business license, you get your sales license, and get your bank account all all set up. I really wish there would have been a clear, easy, like 1 through 10 steps, but there's still, I mean, when I got my start, there wasn't anything like that. And my guess would be that I think it's still kind of unclear of everything you need to do when you're starting a business for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this is real. This is called the real deal running a label. Like
yeah.
This, right?
We actually spent quite a bit of money of just paying somebody to go in and checking all of this data was entered in correctly, and because we have like thousands of songs, and even with double checking and triple checking stuff, mistakes still get made, and splits don't get reported out correctly. So I feel like we're constantly trying to maintain data integrity, which is like something I never would have thought is part of an active, like I have all of these monthly activities that I do as a label. Like, have I reconciled my bank accounts? Have I, am I making sure everything's tagged correctly in my bookkeeping so I know what expenses are going everywhere? And have we registered with all the PROs? And, I have my monthly activity list, and we just kind of, Gus and I go through it and make sure that at least all the boxes are ticked. But let me tell you, when we were putting out like 2 to 3 releases a month, it was a nightmare. I mean, I had to have
a lot of work.
I had to have somebody like full time doing a lot of money was just going into having somebody maintain that. In IDC, like thankfully at least handles it with the aggregator. So any headaches there, like Jerome Fortney, he's our label.
Jerome's
man.
great. Yeah.
I love Jerome. He's the guy that helps us when there's any difficulty there.
Yeah.
And I would say we have a pretty solid team. Like IDC, Stefan, Jerome, and Ben there have been amazing.
Hey, big shout out.
Yeah, it's serious shout out. They've been long time. I mean, working with us, I would say for over probably a decade, and they've been really, really good helping with any kind of event opportunities, promotion, just advice. I mean, they've really been helpful to go to as like a mentorship.
Yeah.
And and then Gus has been great too. He has a longer background than I do in music, and just trying to find the right mentors, if you will, the right people to get good advice from can be difficult, but when you find those people, you try to bring them into the family and team and not lose those connections.
Huge. Can't put enough emphasis on that, because you've got your team, your people.
Yes.
You can't. Nobody can do this alone. It's a complicated business, and complicated enough. Just curating, just finding good talent and putting it together at the level that you've done for as long as you've done it. So I really just want to give you big congratulations on that, because you've been doing this a good while, and the fact that you've stuck with it, and you continue to represent.
It's almost year 15.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? I mean, 15 years. I mean, I've been doing Pyramide even longer, by the way. But it's stick-to-itiveness. There's a lot to be said for that, and it takes time to break through and get noticed. And
it did finally pay off. I will say that like the thing that really worked for us, and has been having this massive catalog and so many people that we work with, because now I am generating royalties every month through all of these different sites and the licensing deals, and we're finally fucking in the black. Like finally.
Ooh, high five. High
five. It took a while, but we are doing it.
Yeah,
it feels very much rewarding when you see those numbers finally go there.
That's gotta feel great. I can I say it? I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
That's really awesome. It's a success story, and that's partly why I wanted to bring you on the podcast here, because it's just a wealth of knowledge. Look at what we just talked about for an hour.
Yeah.
So for me, that's like, it's huge, and anybody listening, I'm sure will get a lot out of this. And so it has been almost, I can't believe we've been doing this for almost an hour. This is amazing. So what I'd like to do here is I want to play this other track a little bit, because I want to kind of close out with this other cool track. This is called The Dragon. It's featuring Nim 1.
Yes.
And it's cool because Nim and I go back a ways, Very, very cool. Yeah. When I first met Nim, he was a young, bright-eyed rapper coming in here, recording a record called Retina of the Third Eye.
Very cool.
With some very cool guys, and
you said Qbert was on that, right?
Yeah, that was Qbert's crew, and this was pre-Scratch Pickles with Apollo, and these guys came into Pyramide, and this was, had to be mid-90s.
Wow.
Right? When we did that
Early
record.
days.
Early days. And we did a record here called Retina of the Third Eye that I got to record and mix with those guys.
So cool.
And to see what they did and what they have gone on to is awesome. And Nim was part of that. And to see him continue to do his thing, his art, and be part of this project, I was super psyched to see that. I heard his voice and I was like, oh, I know that voice, right away. So I'm going to play this track. Why don't you talk a little bit about this track? Let's get this going here. Check it out.
So this is El Diablo. El Diablo has this very distinctive sound. I love his music. It's just this really bass heavy, dark, gritty vibes, and he works a lot with different hip hop MCs. So I was really excited to see this collaboration with Nim One come together because I also have known, have followed him for quite some time. So it's very lucky, but Mal Label has gotten to work with some incredible rappers like Too Short, Blimey, Brimes Blixton. She's up and coming, awesome, phenomenal rapper. Raquel Divar. Like, there's a lot of rappers on the label that we're very, very stoked to represent.
Yeah, and it's such a good fit, right?
Yes.
The rapping and the bass music.
Yes.
Let's listen to this a second, then I want to close out talking about that a little bit, okay?
Sure.
Yeah, represent Frisco. All right, represent.
And I never quite understood why these fools be on your dick like you're the shit. Convinced that you're hype, but I ain't having it. I'm blazing through your living room to empty out the cabinet. The dragon spits without pretense as a defense. Look up for the economy, I'm jamming up your sequence. I'm agreements. Can't control the motion with my achievements. Some super rhyme strategies at your verbal anatomy. Keep quiet and return to the academy. One-on-one assault and battery. Rhyme tragedy. Hashtag that'll be the day these fools battle me. It's just another opportunity to use artillery. Hands numb from the cold, but still you're feeling me. Ears numb from fools whose rhymes sound fidgety.
His raps are always intense.
Yeah.
He's like he's like dropping the knowledge, Go Nim One, yeah.
I love the drums here.
Now, are you involved at all on the production side of any of this stuff?
I have like creative direction. For me, I definitely consider myself an artist, but I do prefer to like be in the creative background, kind of overseeing as opposed to be in the weeds actually producing. But I will contribute lyrics or something every now and then.
Now, will you ever get a track and say, this track has a lot of potential? Would you consider blah, blah, or this or that, and then push it back and then have people resubmit?
Oh, for sure. A lot of times there's definite elements that I'll like about a track, but it might not be quite what we're looking for. And so I do try to provide feedback, especially please just ask,
Right.
I think it's helpful. I'm very responsive, especially when there's somebody wanting more information or trying to get better. I'm always happy to like provide an opinion.
Yeah. And I think that's hugely valuable too. When you've been, for somebody who's been doing it as long as you have, you obviously have an ear for this at this point.
Yes.
And your team does too.
Yeah, Gus and I think we're really on the same wavelength right now, where he can listen to something and know I'll like it, and like vice versa. But yeah, I always try to reward those that do that extra effort and do the follow-ups, because I honestly see a lot of artists just send you something and you never hear back from them.
They don't follow up anything, right? They're like, hey, did you hear my track?
Yeah.
What'd you think? I really appreciate you taking the time.
Exactly.
Right?
It goes a long way.
Right? Goes a long way. So, rap and bass music. I want to just close out a little bit with a little understanding of that, because clearly you get it. You had E40 playing with you way back in the day, and there's obviously a big history now of rap integration with bass music.
Yeah, I think it for me, where I really first heard it was in the grime and then drum and bass scene, you would get these like really quick lyricists on top of that type of music with the heavy drums in the background. And I mean, really, when you listen to any kind of rap music, it has that heavy bass already in the music production. It's just rap music is obviously more focused on the lyricism and what somebody's saying throughout the whole track.
Yeah.
And to me, bass music is kind of the opposite, where it's focused on the music production, but then you throw in a rap hook or like a really good sample of somebody, and it just takes that track to the next level. And I've always personally preferred music that has a little bit of lyricism in it. Like, I think especially like, I love a good like female like soul vocal over something. Like I cannot resist that. But I think it just adds an element when you're on the dance floor, when you hear a sample that you recognize. Like, I mean, like I love Biggie Smalls. So like whenever somebody throws in like a Biggie Smalls sample over like something they're mixing live, the dance floor just goes off, especially like when you know your crowd. And so I've consistently seen that. You consistently hear that at all the festivals, all the artists that you like to hear, they'll sample in, and then it translates really well over to music production. So when they're putting something together, maybe it needs a little extra zhuzh or something, if you will. You can come in and actually get a new sample, work with artists that have, that are up and coming, because obviously you can't be putting Biggie Smalls in your release tracks.
You're going to get flagged for that, for sure. Yeah.
But, it really translated into this great collaboration. So where I've seen a lot of, like Raquel Devar, she's on my label. She's a producer, but she's also a rapper. She really knows how the two go hand in hand. So she'll produce a track and then like rap over it. And so I've been really impressed when you can hear those sounds together. When you can see somebody like her actually fully put out the track, it always comes together where you're getting this really fire dance floor beat, but then the lyricism adds to the track. And so as long as we've been putting out music, it's really been part of what we've been putting out. And like another a plug is Smashltooth. She were putting out her first release. She's a big time like trap DJ. She got really big in the Santa Cruz scene, but she actually got flagged but because some of her music she would play was too dirty.
Oh, really?
And I always thought that was so funny, because anytime you see her play, it just goes off, because she brings in all of the Bay Area hyphy sounds into her music, and the dance floor would just go freaking nuts, and she just kills it. And this album that we're putting out with her actually has a ton of rap on it with the music that she produces. And
dirty, what kind of dirty?
It's like just,
sexual dirty, or
sexual, drugs, gang banging, that kind of shit. I mean, I don't know. I'm like
the real shit.
I love, like, I mean, to me, that's part of what that culture is, and I'm never a person to censor, ever. I do not like that. Oh, we have to blot this lyric or blot that because it's, may offend somebody. Fuck that. Like, this is, I think, that's what she enjoyed. That was what her foundation is, and it really fits with her overall vibe, and it really goes well with her music. And it's
cultural too. I think this is it's part of the culture.
Exactly.
So to deny that it's kind of
you can't just be bleeping things left and right.
Talk about freedom of speech, huh? Right.
And so and
it is art after all.
Exactly. And and to me, the communities, both rap and bass, have always been hand in hand. I mean, I've always gone to shows where there's a live lyricist there, and then when you hear the sampling on top of it of a lot of our favorite rappers, the music just fits really well with it, because that's the producers in rap, I think, are liking that drum energy and that bass energy to have somebody to perform on top of. At least that's just been my experience.
Sure.
It just really goes hand in hand, and I love it. It's fun. It's really fun to dance to. It's fun to repeat the lyrics. Like my lyric when we did Rolling with the Crew was rolling with my crew, big bass bang. And then people just repeat it, and it's fun to have these moments, and I think they're more memorable when you have that lyricism on top of it. But
That's like a tribal chant right there.
Yes.
And we're all a big tribe at the end of the day.
Exactly.
We all want to feel connected on that level, and it's a great way for people to connect.
It just elevates. In my mind, it just elevates the production.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Mal, it's been super awesome connecting with you here today.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a lot of fun. I do want to, you know what, I want to close out, if it's okay with you, I want to play a little bit of this buka track.
Yes,
Is that
please.
cool? Can we play a little bit of that buka track as we
Yeah.
close out here? This is a super dope track right here. So I just want to...
He's an amazing producer.
Yeah, and this is a great closer, as you said. It's the closing track on Space Opera. So if you haven't checked it out, check out Space Opera. It's on all the major services. I'm playing it right off Spotify right here. 6 awesome tracks with 6 really cool artists on here. We got to get a nice taste of that, right?
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, it's been awesome having you. And for those of you who want to check it out, learn more about Mal Label, you can definitely see the links here in the podcast listing. Mallabel.com
Yes.
is the main label, and we're going to be linking up the Space Opera track here on Spotify. Anything else you want to say in closing here?
I was just going to say, if you have demos, feel free to reach out. Demos, DEMOS at Mal, M-A-L, label, L-A-B-E-L, music, M-U-S-I-C.com.
There you go. You heard it here on the Mentor My Mix podcast. Thanks for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Play this one out a little bit.
Yeah.
Mentor My Mix is made possible by Pyramide Music and Audio Production Institute. Evolve your sound with expert trainers and up-to-date courses designed to fit the needs of emerging artists and producers looking to build careers in the music and game audio industries. Go to Pyramide.com for details on the San Francisco campus and online programs. Remember, if you have a guest suggestion or want to contact me for any reason, we have a contact form on the Mentor My Mix website. That's mentormymix.com. Or feel free to email me at greg@mentormymix.com.